everyone. My name is Gary. I'm the CEO of Steam Exchange. With me here, we have Neville, which is our president. We also have Mr. Enki, which is our marketing director. Today, we'll be demoing our new and improved UI for the mining pool. We'll show you parts of it that are currently in operation. There are some parts of it currently offline that the devs are working on. Good news, by the way, the devs are back full time. We'll come back to it at the end. Now, after this demo, we're gonna have Neville, and Neville's gonna go over some documentation for you guys. Bear in mind the document's not yet released, so if you go and look for it, it's not yet released. We do have to polish off a few more sections of it, and then within I'm assuming, Neville, why would you say 24 or 48 hours? That's not reasonable.
Yeah, I was thinking less than that, but we can get there.
Just in case, you never know. Maybe I get some time rug or something going on. All right. All right. So what you see here in front of you guys is our UI. I mean, technically, what'd you say? We did the UI 1, which is everyone saw, and then we had UI 2, which actually nobody ever saw. Then the third one, which we almost completely skipped. This is UI 4, technically. UI number 4. Now, this will be given to the pool teams, and then if they want to go ahead and improve on it, they can go ahead and improve on it. But in our terms and conditions, it's clearly going to state that some aspects of it are not to be changed, or some information is a necessity to show. And then if you want to tag along other information and add in addition to it to create your own niche to attract more users to you other than to other mining pools, that's okay. Competition is good, right? All right, so let's go ahead and just go over this quickly, and then we'll show you guys in more detail there. If Neville, if yourself, and Enki, if yourself, could also get your guys' programs over there already, so that we can show it. Now, this is the main page. The main page does drop a cookie on you, where if you type in your wallet address, it'll save it. So next time when you come here, you'll just click it, load up your wallet address, and it'll give you your statistics. We selected 6 basic statistics. We can probably add more later on, but for the purposes of explaining how it works, we thought these would work best, right? So what do we have here? We have pending shares. So how many shares you still have to be processed in the system. When you mine, you do submit shares. Pending balance. So once these shares are converted into balance, so whatever your contribution is to validation of a block when you mine. Now, what that really means and the definitions of it later, we can go on, and it will be in the documents, a more descriptive version of it. Miner's hash rate. This is your total hash rate for the entire account. And the pay balance is essentially a history of how much you were already paid by the pool. So if you guys are previous miners from other pools, this will be common information that you would already know. If you're not, then we can gladly teach you further on this, which in fact we will do anyway. Workers, what is this? This is, let's just say you have a computer upstairs and you have a computer in your basement. They're both, for instance, mining. Then you'd be able to separate the two, and you know which one either performs better or outperforms, or there's an issue with the performance. This is how you know and specify each one, right? So for instance, if something happens with my computer upstairs, I want to know about it. I don't want to just see the hash rate drop. I want to know which one's having the issue. So if you go to this page, you'll see workers, and in each worker has its own name. So for instance, the upstairs computer is called Chewbacca, and the downstairs computer is called Alpaca, and those were names chosen by Neville. Then, for instance, Chewbacca is not performing as much as he's supposed to be. Then you'd see this on this page because the value would drop down from what you know that it's supposed to be producing, and then you'll know exactly which one you have to go and address, right? So that's convenient. And then your hash rate, there is a graph of your hash rate that shows you if you're going up, down, what's going on, spikes in the network, or how are you reporting? More reporting tools, right? Essentially, so you know how to better mitigate and get more out of it. And let's just go over to stats. Stats is generally the statistics of the entire network, right? So right now, the Rails network block height in our StageNet sorry, testnet, right? We are at 177,000 blocks approximately, as you can see. This page does change on the fly. You do not have to refresh it. You don't have to do anything. It automatically refreshes. The Rails network hash rate. So this is outside of the pool. This does not include the pool. And if you can see, it says kilo hash, which is less than mega hash. Those are the nodes themselves verifying blocks. The nodes do have the capacity to still mine. It's not as efficient as an actual miner, but you can still, on top of the other part of the consensus mechanism, also enable the node to mine with a CPU, right? So if you don't have a graphic card in your computer, you can still mine using a CPU. And keep in mind, everybody compares this to another common coin that we will not mention, that you typically need your high-end graphic cards and whatnot. You don't need a high-end graphic card for it. Our DAG file is not that big. Thereby, you can literally mine using a graphic card that has 1 GB of memory, if you would, right? And it would perform good, right? You don't need to go out and buy $1,000 graphic card or an expensive machine. You can assemble a fairly cheap rig and use that to mine. And later on, maybe Neville will come by and we'll put together a video of how to assemble one from the get-go, from the beginning, and go for the cheapest parts out there and put it all together and give you guys a breakdown of what it costs locally, for instance, right? And then you guys can compare it to what it costs you. Okay, let's keep going. Pool hash rate. Pool hash rate is the total hash rate of the pool. So all the miners combined that are solely on the pool here. So as you can see, we were testing it previously, and we tried turning it off just before the MA, but it does take time to go down or go up for the pool miners. It doesn't go up instantly. It doesn't come down fast. It's because there is a protocol in place where the information is relayed to a different server, and that server can get hit as many times as you guys want to hit it. It just won't give you the information you guys want as many times as you want. So you can't hit it 1,000 times a minute, right? It's got a delay on purpose, not to overwhelm the actual system. So it sits behind a proxy, if you will, on purpose, right? So that you can't overwhelm the system. Connected peers. This is different. We chose this name for now because it made sense to us on a technical level. I mean, what it is connected peers, but not to the pool. It's connected nodes, connected blockchain nodes or master nodes or pool nodes all together on the system. So currently we have 5 nodes online in total. That includes the relay node, the Genesis node, the master node, the pool node. There's 5 different servers currently online. There are more, in fact, in existence. I believe there are 15, but they're being worked on. Thereby, they're offline, right? So we needed to keep a few online for the purpose of the demo. And it's, by the way, is not enough. This is not enough to confirm blocks. We knew this. We knew the guys are going to be working on it. So what we did is we took a screenshot for it for you guys to show you what the difference is. So let me go over to the next page and explain that. Oh, that's in the 2 pages over. I'm sorry. 1 second. So before we do that, there's a miners page if you guys want. We didn't attach the worker names to it. Maybe we could. Neville, why don't we mark it down and see? I know this is going to be interesting to some people. If you were to look at this as some kind of high score page, for instance, right? Then you can see what address, it doesn't give you the full address, but you can see what address. Essentially, you can come and compare yourself using the last few numbers of your own address and see where you stack against everybody else that's currently on the pool, right? Are you the fastest? Are you the slowest? Are you top 10? Somewhere there in the middle, right? I'm thinking, Neville, maybe we put this on a blackboard. Maybe I know sometimes, people might have fun looking at other people's worker names. And so maybe we should let that feature be seen here. But we would have to mitigate for any kind of profanities later and maybe ban that node later on. So we'll have to talk about it. Maybe add this to the terms and conditions. But just an idea. Sorry, guys. You guys can see we're always developing, and if you have an idea, we'll throw it out there live, right? Okay. So blocks. Let's go over to the blocks page. Blocks page is essentially the last 100 blocks. We can change it to 1,000. We can change it to 10. Later on, it's so easy, but we just didn't have time to do it. Later on, maybe we'll do a little drop down here where you can select you want to see only the last 10, you want to see the last 100, or you want to see certain blocks between that day and that day, for instance, right? If you remember something big or interesting happened, or you personally had a block and you want to show your friends and you don't remember the block number, but you remember the time and day approximately, then maybe you can search for it up like that. But that would be easier to do not through the pool. That would be easier to do through the Blockchain Explorer, which is a whole separate AMA. So we'll leave that alone for now. So as you can see right now, and you can see some missing, and that's because the pool itself did not mine that block, if you will, right? It was one of the nodes, or it could be another pool that mined it, and we do have two pools online, right? One of them is offline, but so if you go back in history, you'll see that there's here 89 is missing, for instance. Where is it? Well, something else mined it that doesn't belong in this pool, right? It could be mined again by a master node or another pool, for instance, right? Or a solo miner, if you will. We'll go over that later. So you get, the time, the block height, right? The effort currently, it's not available. It won't show you here. And then the status, is it confirmed? Is it pending? And we'll touch base on this later and documentation, and that was going to go over the reward. So right now it's at 0, but once the payment goes out, then the reward applies. Right now we haven't finalized the number yet, and we'll go over that. And when those numbers are going to be available, it's going to be at the end of Neville's documentation. We'll touch base on that a minute later. Confirmation percentage. So, for instance, if it needs, I'm just going to throw a number out there. If it needs 10 blocks to 100% be confirmed, right? So if it's got to be mined 10 times over, for instance, it's mined and confirmed by the block, by the nodes, right? So if you have 10 nodes, I'm just going to explain it as easy as I can. If you have 10 nodes, all 10 of them have to synchronize and agree on it. And then the confirmation percentage, if it's out of 10 and you only have 5 done, thereby you're at 50%, right? Neville, do you mind tossing an example in the chat real quick?
I already did, my man.
You did? Perfect. Thank you. If you guys want to take a look at that, that's what it looks like when it's confirmed. And the confirmation will be at 100%. The reward is set to 5, just a generic number because we always have 5. We went with 5 because we always have 5 nodes online for the purposes of a demo, right? That's the number we agreed on, so we just said, okay, we'll go with this for now. That number will change. Okay, and the effort, it wasn't, that's a different component that one of the developers was working on that now they're going to finish now that they're back full time. What it means is, how much went towards it, how long did it take, for instance, or there's more than one parameter, and then we have to choose which one we want to plug in, or the pool operator themselves can choose which one they want to plug in, or if they want to show you everything, they can show you everything. How long did it take, or how many miners attended to it, or what luck it was at, for instance, and whatnot, like stuff like that, right? That's all there. Now let's go back for a second. Payments is how many payments the pool made. We recently deleted all the shares database because we re-implemented a new style of database to make it more efficient. So once the database starts synchronizing with the pool, all the payments are going to link up here. So actually, I forgot to turn it on. And then the payments will go through on the miners page. You'll see, where is it? 1 second. On your page here, when it pays you, and in the blocks page, you'll see the reward, for instance, how much you got, will also reflect over to the payments, right? So which address, similar to before, I'll say confirmation, the amount, time and a date, and those are payments that were already made. So 500 payments, and this is different than the blocks. Slightly different. Like the most obvious difference is there's no height, right? But the payments can be different at the reward because people pay for transactions. So if you want to see, whoa, that was a big one, let me go take a look at that, guys, take a look, kind of thing. There's more to it to be incorporated, but this is where it's at right now, right? Keep in mind, because we're showing you something doesn't mean we'll stop. We're obviously going to keep going. And to be honest with you guys, this is, we could talk about hours for this. When we had to move the EMA from originally being on Saturday over to this because one of us had an emergency, and as you know, we've explained that we need more than one person to demo this. Well, you guys will see the reason for that soon. But I guess what I should say is it's easier to do it with 2. I'm sorry, it's easier to do it with 2, and we decided to go over that too. let's keep going. Well, I'll circle back to it after. Okay, let's keep going. I'll circle back to it after. Join a pool will give you the statistics, and alerts is common alerts for the pool. Sorry, not statistics. It'll give you different instructions, which are also going to be going all over the separate video. You know what? Let me go back to say what I wanted to say. We are going to break this down into a few videos because of the amount of information that's needed to be put out there, and sometimes these videos may be over an hour long. What we're going to do that's slightly different is on our YouTubes that are out there, we're going to start putting down different time spots. If you know, in YouTube you have an option to skip to a different time, so it's going to be title per minute or title per subject that we're going over. So for instance, we can put a different time slot on each one of these and title it there. You guys can jump forward just to that if that's all you want to see, for instance. But because there's the vast amount of information, we have to break it down to segments. Like for today, we're doing just a mining pool and a short demo of how to jump on it, and a quick go over the docs, right? Later on, we could be going over, for instance, the the master nodes, or then the relay nodes, or how does it all work together. There's different parts to it, and they all take a lot of time. So we're gonna break it down to a few different AMAs, if you will, right? Not to mention there will be separate YouTubes on it as well. So let's go ahead and start up a miner. Now you can use your if you guys know what I'm talking about. If not, it's okay. We'll go over that later. But you can use the most common ones out there: Phoenix Miner, NB Miner, Black Miner, for instance. Whatever you guys want that's out there, generally you could use it. So, for instance, I'm going to go ahead and launch a few miners. I'm using currently NB Miner now. By launching a few miners using the same graphic card, I'm essentially limiting down the hash rate, or the speed at which it mines, if you will. And I'll probably throw on the LHR log because this is an LHR card, and what that means we can go over later. I just want you to see that the pool can in fact take on different miners. It's not static, it's all done live. There's nothing like behind the curtains or anything like that, if you will, right? Everything is done live. Okay, guys, so let's give it 1 second to propagate. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drop in the wallet address right here, and if you can see, it saved it from before. So that's an empty address that I think, because we deleted all the shares, right? Let's go ahead and paste a new one. There we go. That's the new one I just did. I just put it in. So what I did is I have the same wallet address, and it's mimicking, because I launched it several times, it's mimicking the different rigs, if you will, right? Because normally you'd have several rigs in a house, and and like I mentioned before, you have one upstairs, downstairs, in the basement, and you want to know which one of them is performing better, or how they're performing in general, right? So there you go. I punched in the address, I got the share rate, I got the current hash rate for them, and I got the name. So we have an alpaca miner, chupacabra, gypsy, and there is a chewbacca as well that's currently not online, but will come online shortly. You guys will see it, and there's a little bit of history there. Right, so currently the paid, as I said, we've reset the database to 0. The pending shares, once the shares get confirmed, they go over to the balance. Once you hit balance threshold, right, so we want to save everyone money. Once you hit a balance threshold, the pool will automatically pay you. So right now, I believe, Neville, correct me if I'm wrong, it's set at 1. So the moment you get any block reward, basically it pays you out at a predetermined time. So it doesn't just send it to you. It's a multiple sending system where it sends multiple transactions at the same time, multi-sender, if you will. And that's a quick example, right? So I just want to go back to looking at this. For instance, let's go ahead and hit edit on the miner file. It's very simple. This is, for example, it comes pre-configured to a stock address. What you're going to have to do, right-click it and put in the address of the mining pool that you're mining. So this one is the dev demo, for instance, that we're doing right now. This address will go offline at the end of this AMA, again, like I mentioned. Um, and all you have to do is change whatever address comes in your file. The port, now there's different ports for different difficulty levels. We'll explain what that means later. Dash U is what is your user. So instead of putting a username, instead of having you sign up, obviously, uh, we asked you put in your wallet address. So when you mine, we want to know, where does the block reward go? Where do we pay you for your contribution, right? And this is, you just put your wallet in, and then the dot. The dot means that what is the name of this specific miner? What did you call your particular system? And then the dash log is something that's very common. If something does go wrong, which typically, if it does, it goes wrong with the actual miner software. So normally, speaking from experience, my 19 card rig wasn't the most stable one. And back then in the day, they didn't have them as improved as today, right? So what I learned from that is always look at the log, and it tells you what malfunctioned and where. And part of the reason I don't have the rig anymore is because if one would malfunction, it would shut down the entire miner. Thereby, now instead of having one rig that's got 6 cards not mining, I now have 19 cards not running, right? Which is, if you're far away from the house, it gets kind of expensive to either drive back to figure it out, or have it off for a certain amount of time. Anyhow, we can go over that later. Um, I think this is what we're gonna go over right now. Oh, I wanted you guys to see. Sorry. Oh, there we go. Anki, I guess you connected yours, and Neville, I guess you connected yours, because I see that in the beginning of our AMA here, the pool miners was a lower number. I believe it was 5, and now we went up, right?
I connected 5 actually.
Wow. Okay.
I connected in 1.
Cool. Okay, so there's still some more that are going to propagate. Like I said, it takes a few minutes for it to update, and that's done on purpose. So as you guys can see, the connected peers, again, what that means is the servers that are connected, and they're all connected to each other in the mesh system, if you will. And then the pool miners is specific only to the pool, right? There's 2 different things. Maybe we should, again, look at changing this name and making it more understandable of what it is, right? Okay. That's basically it for the demo. We can add more stats or whatnot, but we can put out the basics. We can demand the basics, and then each pool, again, each pool team would find their own niche, right? So we'll dictate using our terms and conditions what is a must, and obviously everything else under the sun is available in terms of statistics, right? Let me just quickly touch base on it. We'll have the requirements and all that good stuff later. It is not on the top of the to-do list in terms of what are we going to be asking. We have it, but we want to go into detail about it more before we put it out there. And when it comes down to going over what is the requirement that we're asking for you to have as a prerequisite before you even apply to run a pool, right? And we're a master node, so we'll touch more on that later. Like I said, let us know in the chat what you guys think. All right, I think Neville, if you want to open up the docs, and we'll let you take the train onto the next turn.
Sounds good. Do you want to stop sharing your screen so I can share mine?
Go ahead, share yours, and then I'll turn off the sharing.
All right. So this is yep.
Yeah, 1 second. If you don't mind, just give it a pause once I turn it off, so that we can clip the 2 together after.
Perfect. So
Okay,
this is
I stopped
definitely
sharing.
long.
Yeah.
Thanks, Gary. long in motion. Multiple versions of this was put together. Our developers put together a very technical version of this document, and then we worked through different versions, kind of translating it to cater to every level of investor, right? Whether you're an avid miner or you're just getting into mining or you've never heard of mining at all. We'll go through a couple of the pages. We won't go through all of them. When this does get published live, you can go through the rest of it. So welcome to the Rails network, right? So the Rails network is a blockchain built for hosting and operating smart contract-based applications with an emphasis on utility, speed, and cost efficiency. Open-ended engineering will allow it to expand beyond the internal Steam Exchange ecosystem and provide for an all-encompassing experience in regards to utility, security, and scalability. Steam Exchange aims to make it as easy as possible for developers to use this network. The Rails blockchain network is an innovative hybrid consensus mechanism known as proof of work by authority. The Rails network has support for existing tools and dApps. This makes it accessible and convenient for developers to port their existing projects and add new projects to the Rails network. So we did land on a temporary ticker of STX. It's definitely not the final ticker. It's just there as a placeholder for the document. You'll see it throughout the document, but it is subject to change. Moving on to the outlook. So this document contains a general overview of the Rails network. The blockchain will continue to evolve, especially given the open-ended design and the guiding principles of Steam Exchange. The motivation of the network. Steam Exchange aims to provide developers and end users of decentralized applications a safe and secure platform with benefits similar to an EVM-compatible blockchain and more. One of the primary engineering goals of the Rails network is to prevent malicious teams from hosting projects within our ecosystem. This is an issue that is currently impacting popular blockchains. We aim to accomplish this through various instruments of the network and associated smart contracts. The Rails, there's a typo there, I apologize. Network ability to upgrade and implement leaves room for the Rails network to evolve and expands to offer functionality such as gamification opportunities, launchpad services, but also to incorporate adaptability as a function and keep up with the latest trending features within the crypto ecosphere. Design principles. So the design principles of the Rails network, we're a standalone blockchain. The Rails network is a standalone private blockchain with self-contained technical and business functions and the native Steam Exchange coin that functions as a base trading pair for all digital assets offered through the Steam Exchange ecosystem. Anti-scam. The Node client code provides anti-scam features to eliminate some of the most common malicious practices in the crypto ecosphere. It's sustainable. The proof of work by authority consensus mechanism is environmentally friendly because it has the ability to mitigate the hash rate arms race by being able to modify the rewards for both running nodes and proof of work separately. It has a negligible barrier to entry. So just touch on that just a little bit, right? So we all know proof of work is not environmentally friendly, right? But by including an authority mechanism, what we're doing is we're able to mitigate and modify certain elements of the ecosystem to make sure that there is no arms race, right? Someone's not coming in with a massive rig that's going to dominate the pool, right? So we're able to mitigate for those issues, overall balancing the ecosystem and making it sustainable in the sense that we're not a negative impact on the environment, whereas other chains are. So just touching on that just a little bit so you understand what we meant by that. It should be fast and secure. The network architecture together with the consensus mechanism offers significantly better performance. For example, below average block times and higher transaction capacity and overall security than typical layer 1 networks. Ethereum compatibility. The Rails network is designed to take advantage of the relatively mature base of applications and communities on both the Ethereum and Binance Smart Chain. This means that nearly most, if not all, of the ecosystem components, dApps, and other tools functioning with the Rails network will function with the Rails network with minimal changes. So we mentioned earlier that we are EVM compatible, and we really meant it, right? So all of those your favorite tools that you currently use, if you're a developer of those tools, it'll be easy for you, minimal for you to move those to our blockchain. Our token standard, we landed on this for now, and it's also subject to change, just like our ticker. It's the Rails token standard. So RTS20 is a token standard of the Rails network. RTS20 is proposed as a technical specification for the Rails network with the goal of providing an interface standard to create token smart contracts. If you're a developer, Using RTS20, you'll be able to issue new tokens to digitize assets. You can migrate existing dApps and develop wallets and tools to help users use dApps. If you're a miner, you can use your existing mining rigs or leveraging commonly used mining software to mine SteamX by joining one of the official mining pools. You can apply to host a master pool node, or you can apply to host a relay node. So you'll notice here that subject to rigorous vetting and compliance processes, that applies to the master and pool node. So if you want to run your own master node or you want to run your own pool node, there's going to be a significant vetting process to do so. If you want to host a relay node, that is open to anybody without application. Gary, did you want to add anything to this before we move on?
You're bang on. You're 100% bang on there. I'm sure there'll be questions. We can so circle back to them later. Again, the whole mitigation part. If you want to go back one page there, if you could. Basically, the arms race. If we could circle back to that, if you don't mind, for 1 minute. We have the ability to incentivize people running nodes. So the structure that it's built by, the commonly on proof of work style. When you get the reward, that's it. That's the reward, right? The way we have it built is every time there's a block reward, well, the proof of work has its own block reward, and all the nodes have a different structure of their own reward. So yes, every block, there's two different structures. There's one that goes to the nodes, and there's one that goes to the miners, right? So for instance, that number I was showing you guys earlier, which for now is 5, that's only for the miners in the pool, right? They share that amongst them. There is a separate number that's only for the nodes. So every block, there's both rewards, one for the nodes and one for the miners in the pools. Now, this gives us the ability, and why it's so unique is we can incentivize people so that there isn't an arms race. We can incentivize people to, instead of building another rig and becoming giants, we can incentivize them. Okay, you have one rig, no problem, that's cool, thank you so much, it's very nice, but let's be a little bit more green, if you will, for the environment. Run a node, right? So we can control the halving mechanism, which means that, okay, we're starting to see numbers, tilting the scale, not in favor of what we know the community would not like. So we can say, all right, we are increasing the reward for running nodes. So every time that there's a node reward goes out, right, every block, now there's more reward, right? Whereas on the proof of work side, either it doesn't change or it goes down, right? So we can actually, if we wanted to, hypothetically speaking, we could bring it down on the proof of work side, and on the node side, we could actually raise it there by, the incentivizing process, right? More on that later. Like I said, we can always, circle back to things and talk about them for hours. But Neville, if you could continue where you were.
Sure. Thanks, Gary.
Thank you, Neville.
Yep. So this is the last page I'll share with you guys. It's a little bit longer than the rest of them, but it does touch a lot about what we talked about today. So consensus mechanism. So based on the design principles above, the consensus mechanism of the Rails network aims to accomplish and sustain the following goals and metrics. So we want to have an average block time of 3 to 5 seconds. Transactions should be final within 1 minute. It should consist of a healthy inflation rate of 1 to 3% per year. Address most common issues with proof of work, and allow for seamless enhancements in the future, such as further incentivizing node operators. So with proof of work, there's a problem, right? Though it's established as a practical mechanism to implement a decentralized network, it's not the friendliest option for the environment. It requires multiple participants to maintain the security of the blockchain. Furthermore, the drive for more hashing power can lead to mining pool domination and even security risks, such as the 51% attack. The solution we bring to the table is quite simple. The Rails network combines proof of work and authority for consensus. So the three fundamentals are addressed, which is security, balance, and ease of entry. Blocks are produced by a known and verified set of validators, which is the security. Miners can be discouraged from producing a vast number of consecutive blocks, which is balance, and anyone can contribute to validator pools and earn rewards, which is ease of entry. Proof of work by authority. We recognize the trilemma of blockchain properties, scalability, decentralization, and security. The Rails network is a private blockchain, which leaves minimal concern over decentralization, allowing Steam Exchange to focus on scalability and security. The proof of work by authority consensus mechanism maintains the usual advantages of the typical proof of work approach, such as easy entry, proven and tested security, relatively easy implementation, and at the same time addresses many of the shortcomings, such as high energy consumption, 51% attack, specialized expensive hardware requirements in order to be competitive. So like Gary mentioned during the mining pool demo, you don't necessarily have to have a huge rig to join a pool. You don't have to have a huge rig to run a pool, right? You can run a mining rig that consists of a graphics card on your laptop. For example, I mentioned earlier, I have 5 instances running myself. It's all using one 3060, right? It's using one graphics card, and I have it running 5 instances, picking up blocks independently. Gary, did you want to touch on this slide before we move on to
Yeah, there's
questions?
two things, maybe even three. So even though you can run different nodes, you can actually proxy them so that they share the work. Because the way, if you just launch 5 instances, we will go into this later in details, but if you don't proxy them, then they each could compete against each other. So you're literally competing against yourself. But what you could do, the only reason we did launch 5 nodes on the same system is to demonstrate that you can actually use 5 different computers from one account, right? So obviously, normally people don't do that, but they do have multiple computers at home that they could use to mine on. What we would go over eventually, and at some point in one of the times that we'll be doing a discussion about this, is how to proxy your miners. So if you want to put them all together, which means all of your miners at home still are separated by different rig names, if you will. They do share the same wallet address, just like in a demo. But you're solving the problem of, when you have 5 different systems, it's the same thing like launching 5 different instances. But then you're competing against yourself because each one of your computers is already trying to solve potentially the same equation, right? So you know, why not have them share that information? And if you proxy them together, they share the information. So they all receive the work from the pool, if you will, together, but that work contains, for example, 10 different equations, thereby, one computer is doing one and another one's doing another one. So you don't get at any point, all of your systems or some of your systems trying to solve the same equation. Thereby, you're not competing against yourself. And normally this does come up with around 20 to 30 more percent in shares, which is 20 to 30 more money. Now the 51% issue, right? Another part of mitigation that we have in our back pocket that we would be able to implement because, terms and conditions of pool and us. If we see that more miners are flocking into a certain pool, we could always cap them. So we could say you're reaching 50% of the network, or within a week, we suspect that you will reach 50% of the network. This is unfavorable towards the other pool. We know that our community is potentially going to be unhappy with this. We're going to cap you at where you are right now until it evens out between all the pools, or your numbers drop a little bit. Not in terms of people on your pool, but in terms of it gets diversified and stabilizes the ecosystem. Right now, should somehow this mitigation process, the security feature fail, if we ever have to implement it, and in in the real world, in real life, it doesn't really. It's not common. It is, but it's not. And the only I'll touch base on that later. So normally, in its nature and existence, it is not common. It's not common whatsoever. The only time you would see it ever go up slightly is with miners and mining software that is free to use, but they don't give you their source code, which means that they have a developer fee. because somebody obviously took the time to build it, so they take a fee from whatever you mine. And it automatically sends that dev fee to the dev wallet, right? This is not us. I'm not talking about us. This is if you go online and you download NB Miner or Phoenix Miner, for instance, they have fees, right? So some take 0.5%, some take 1%. Now, they dictate in the miner software to the miner where to connect. So you would see it disconnect potentially from the pool that you're currently mining on and switch over to the developer's pool, right? And that's where you would see potentially one pool all of a sudden for 1 minute, 1 minute every hour or 1 minute every few hours, have a spike in how many users are connected to it. But in reality, it's just the automated process of that 1%, for instance, dev fee. Right, some people charge 2 or 3%. So there's ways to mitigate for it, like I just mentioned. But just in case, for whatever reason, nefarious activities took place by those developers, which I highly doubt, because then nobody would ever use their program, and they would lose a lot more money across multiple chains and multiple coins, right? So you know, they're not incentivized to do it just by design, right? But if, let's just say, if on the odd chance, if, on a very odd chance, which I don't see happening, if it does happen, then we have mitigated for it, because the way our consensus system is built, that the master nodes would block that and revert it and won't let it go through. So even if somebody does acquire 51% of mining hash power, the way the system is built, the master nodes will not let you double spend, for instance, right? Will not let you alter the blocks. It will revert that block. It will be destroyed and replaced with the proper one. So there are several protection and mitigation steps that are predispositioned, if you will, in the system, and that we can trigger should we need to. Um, I know I took a little bit extra time there, Neville. I do apologize. If I'm sure there's more that we can circle back to later. I just don't want to take up more of your time there.
No problem. That's cool. And just one more thing, right? So the document does outline some of those mitigation techniques that we have. Obviously, it doesn't outline all of them, but one of the other things that we talked about that is implemented on the chain is if you hop between pools, you won't necessarily get rewarded
Yes.
immediately, right? There'll be a 100 block delay before you get rewarded. And so that mitigates people jumping onto lower powered hash powered pools with their big rigs, hoping to capture or validate more blocks. You won't be rewarded for the first 100 blocks. So,
Well, sorry, Neville. Can I
sure,
go ahead? Let me circle back to when you're done. I'm sorry for cutting you off there. Go ahead.
No, that's it. You're good. Go ahead.
Okay, so there's a difference, guys. If we the system automatically will see there's more to it, right? The system will see what the issue is. So it would transfer with it in the code. The way it works, it would transfer with it a certain log or a certain key parts of the log, if you will, right? No personal data, nothing like that, right? But why? Because pools do go down sometimes, the connections do drop. And in the code, in the mining software itself, what you see is something called the backup pool. There's sometimes two or three of them, right? Now, if we see that in the logs, and it's pre-programmed on our end, if we see that in the log you did it and there was no connection issue, you just did it to hop over. It's not that we discourage it. I mean, obviously, if you want to change pools, but there's a particular code. I'm not going to tell you how it works so that you don't try and avoid it. There's a particular code, as Neville mentioned, that if you try to capitalize on it beyond the scope of what's reasonable, then you would be penalized for it. Also, this reminds me of something that I didn't go into. The consecutive blocks. So if you decided to switch over a huge warehouse full of mining cards, which obviously I don't see anyone doing in real life. It doesn't really happen like that. Maybe on the off chance, but again, those networks are well established and well into their life cycle at that point. But on the hop, when we do start, if somebody decides to drop in a giant warehouse full of 3, 4, 5 million worth of equipment and decides to run it, obviously that person would hit several blocks in a row. Now, it's not set in stone, but I believe, Neville, what was it right now? 10? What was the lowest number there? 10. Let's just go with 10 for now. you guys hit 10 blocks in a row, obviously that person is going to get the most rewards because they contributed the most shares. The way the pool works, right? And even though it's set up to reward everybody, as long as they contributed something, that person would still get the majority. So what we did for that is, and again, this isn't turned on right off the bat. This is if we start seeing that there's an issue, we're able to turn it on. We're even able to specify to a wallet address, for instance, right? But the way it works is quite simple. Each block that you would hit further and further, so let's just say you hit 10 blocks in a row, and all of a sudden you're at block 11 that you hit in a row, that block will then grant you minus 10% block reward, and then so on and so on and so on. And that number does increase, right? And what does it do with it? It keeps it in the pool, but it takes that 10% and it gives it to the rest of the miners equally, right? So we're all about fairness and we're all about equality. So if you think you're gonna be trying to come in and strong arm the system and strong arm everybody, and you're obviously doing it for the money at that point, we're so sorry, but we care about our community, and we will not let you strong arm our community. So there's many protocols and protections in place, and this is just touching the surface, and we didn't even go into too many details. And this just goes to show this isn't something that we just came up and is implemented. We went into depth on our blackboard about how each and every single command works, what are the pros and cons, the repercussions of it, how can we mitigate for things, and still give you guys as many updates as we can in between. So when we say we literally don't have time, uh, to go use the bathroom, we actually don't, because we're in here working almost 24/7, every minute that we can, every second that we can. With coding, it's a little bit slightly different because you want that train of thought, and if you lose it, it takes you some time to circle back. So if we have 15, 20, 30 minutes, we probably do something more productive on it, like work in a UI component that it's no problem to come back to later, because again, with coding, you want to keep that constant thought process going. And the moment you stop, you might get a block, uh, like a thinking walk barrier, kind of. You need to go reset yourself for a walk or something like that, 15, 20 minutes, right? So we want to try and avoid that. So again, I hope this shows you guys how much of a process and how much thought we've put into this, and how much is coded there. Because what you see, and if you recall, way back on our first AMAs, first few of them, when Chris was telling you guys, there's more to it, but we just can't show you because it's code. Now we're starting to be able to show you and explain to you, because it's no longer code. You're seeing something, and then we can explain how it works in more depth, right? But it just, circling back to all of those days, now you guys see it and understand it, how much has actually gone into here, and how it works, right? And we're on it, guys. We're really on it. I want you to understand where we're literally living Steam Exchange. We're breathing Steam Exchange. We're sleeping Steam Exchange. We're thinking only Steam Exchange. We're at this 100% of the time, and then 110% when we're sleeping. Because I would sometimes wake up, boom, I had an idea while I was sleeping, and now all of a sudden, yeah, this makes more sense how to code that particular structure better and faster and more efficient. And like, you would think about this idea of how to code it differently, while you're sleeping. We're literally eating, sleeping, walking, breathing Steam Exchange all day, 24/7. Wow, Neville, I'm sorry I kind of rugged you on the time slot there.
Good. I think we're good for questions. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and we can start taking the questions.
No, let me go back and turn it on, so it gives them a little bit of, looking at the website a little bit more. And again, Neville, this document, it's not published currently, right? This will be available, hopefully by, let's just say by end of Friday, Saturday afternoon. Is that fair?
Yep, sounds fair.
And this would be, guys, for you guys to take a look at. Unless there's a major upgrade or change, we won't tell you. Just simply come on and take a look for yourself. And eventually, very soon, we'll have the version 1.2, I'd say, or 1.2 and a half of our numbers, and we would publish those. And those are also subject to change, preliminary, because obviously the closer we get, the more testing we do, we home in on those final numbers, right? In terms of exact amount of, how much in circulation, how much here, how much there, exact amount of rewards, maybe a few to make it better. And then obviously that combined with the further AMAs that we're going to do, it's going to get a lot more interesting and a lot more in depth. And who knows, maybe we'll do an AMA from the new quote unquote studio where it's going to be a lot more interactive and fun for you guys as well as us. Um, let me open up the website, and if you wanna just give me 1 second, and then what we could do is, um, if you could stop sharing, and I'll start sharing in a second, and we'll circle over to Enki if you don't mind, and let him say a few words uh, before we close it. So give me 1 second. My apologies. All right. Thank you, Neville.
Go ahead, Viraf.
Thanks, Neville. Thanks, Gary. I mean, guys, as you've seen, this was a robust and chunky AMA. We have been heads down and focused on these aspects. So if you just track back to the previous two AMAs as well, we had the NFT gateway and then we had the Launchpad demo as well. So those two elements in combination with this mining pool demo, we're going to showcase around the block pretty much, right? And we feel it's best if we speak to the sort of volume of work that has gone into this ourselves. So we will be doing or sharing this material in the form of AMAs across groups. So we do have an AMA lined up tomorrow as well at 4 p.m. EST. I will be sharing the link to that Telegram group shortly. And we are going to, in the following week as well, do a few more AMAs and have potentially AMAs with some YouTube influencers as well. So if you track back to our previous push, there was Torin Hoffman, who we're going to do an AMA with. And then shortly after, we should have a video put out by Connor Kenny as well towards the end of this month. So those two blocks will help us actually with the word of mouth and putting that out there, right? In terms of, we all know that the community is everything when it comes to a project, or is essentially the keeps the momentum going. We do have a shill army that has been dormant for a while, but slowly it has been picking up momentum. So if any of you out there are interested in sort of joining that group or helping spread the word, just DM one of our admins or just drop a note in the main chat and we'll be sure to add you in there, right? Along with all of this work that has gone in, we are going to work on some new media content as well, just to highlight the work that was put in, maybe in the form of illustrations, infographics, just have some imagery to go along with the material and have that supplement the Shill Army as well as on platforms like Twitter and Telegram and just get some more information out there. So that's what you can expect in the upcoming few weeks.
Beautiful. Also, I was looking at reviving an old channel that I had. I am going to revive it. I'm just finishing up the studio, like I mentioned, and um, it would be a lot. It would allow for much more descriptive and much more defined, if you will, approach to educational material. So because it's I'm from Steam Exchange. Obviously, my content would be primarily Steam Exchange, but it's still going to be relative to what's going on out there, and still does apply to the vast amount of algorithms or coins that are out there, a vast amount of different cryptos that are out there. That's why It's somewhat separate, if you will, but it's not, because it's primarily Steam Exchange. But uh, for instance, building a mining rig, that would be that would apply to everything, right? Uh, but how to specify and start up a node specific to Steam Exchange, that would be on Steam Exchange side, right? So stuff that's does apply to the public in general, that's there, and but with a demo about Steam. But stuff that applies just to Steam is obviously just on the Steam channel, right? So if you guys want extracurricular videos, if you will, by all means, wait, it's coming. Other than that, um, in lieu of how much time we have on these AMAs, the material is kind of squished down version of it, if you will. Uh, when the pre-recorded ones, we can put in as much as we can. Uh, to not miss any aspects of it, or to literally cover the entire field. Thank you very much, um, Viraf. Thank you so much. Neville, guys, kudos to Neville, please, for this front end. The entire front end is done by Neville himself. Uh, call him the UI master from now on, I guess, right? UI master, how does that sound? That sounds good to me.
I'll take it.
UI master. All right, UI master. All right, there we go. Emma. MJC. Sorry, MJC. She started it. There you go, Neville. You are the UI master. All right, I only did. I don't know. What did I do? I didn't do anything. I don't do anything around here, guys. Neville does everything here. Whole front end.
No, for sure. You did
No,
nothing
it's
to
okay.
get this.
Yeah, the whole
No,
front
for
end.
sure,
I don't
man.
know. Nothing about it. Maybe a little bit of the API, just a little bit. Just
No.
just a
Yeah,
little
you did
bit.
a lot, buddy. The
It's okay.
synchronizing all the nodes. You
Okay,
can get
bro. I
into
was kidding. I
details.
was kidding. Stop. I don't need a pat on the back. I'm good. Thanks. I'll take it, but I'm good. Thanks. I was just joking. Yeah, but guys, UI master here. All right. Question period, guys. Ready, set, go. Hands up, hands up. Samuel. How you doing today, Samuel?
Hi, I'm good, mate. How you going?
Well, so far still alive. I don't complain. Nobody listens.
That's a good policy. I've got a quick question. If it's not relevant, that's all right. I understand, but it's just in regards to the regulation side of things, which I'm sure must be frustrating because I know a lot of that's out of your hands. But how are we going on the regulation side of things with sort of Canadian bodies and such?
So I'm gonna touch base on it. You may or may not like my answer, but I do hope you understand it. In lieu of some requests from the community, I'm going to give you the basic answer of our lawyers are working and we are paying them, and it's not cheap. Now, in order to satisfy the rest of the community and not go into detail why, um, there's some people that say every time you say something, this happens, or every time you speak about it, this happens. Call it bad juju, call it bad aura. I don't know, but just to satisfy everybody, we're gonna stay away and steer clear of the actual specifics. But I can tell you they're working on it, and I can tell you it's not cheap.
No worries, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Samuel. Thank you so much.
No worries. Have a
Um,
great day. Thanks, mate.
Thank you. You as well. Next one I have here with their hand up is Adolf. How you doing today, Adolf?
Good. You?
Like I said, I don't complain.
Sweet. No, I'm interested in joining your shilling army. I was wondering.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah, you can DM any one of the mod admins, and they'll set you up with a link to join in there.
Sweet. I was a little curious on what incentive or rewards you guys are offering for that.
Well, for kind of rebirthing it, we haven't really gone over anything in particular. I'm sure we will, but in the meantime, if you wanna hop on board and see how you like it, just DM any one of the admins and mods, because whatever we had going initially is already expired, if you will. but I'm sure we'll circle back to it and discuss new exciting things.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. So either we were that good, or everybody's shy, or I mean, I know it's a work day, so maybe people are just listening, but I don't see any more hands up there, Neville. Do you?
No, but there was some questions
I do.
that
Sorry, I cut my hand
admins.
up, but oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, go ahead, Samuel, and then Neville. If nobody puts their hands up, why don't you read those up after?
Sorry about that. I would have put my hand up, but I can only unmute myself. Um,
I
with
mean, if you
the
really want to replay the whole thing, we can mute you, and then
with with the blockchain documentation that's coming out, I saw on the tabs it's got more general information like performance and whatnot. When that documentation drops, will it just be focused on the mining side of things, or will it have more generalized information about the blockchain also?
So once we finish each and every segment and we're happy with it, like because this is a preliminary, if you will, right? It's a starting point. That's the first version that we are releasing out, right? So which means it's not the first version that we've created. It's the first version where we feel that this particular subject and each particular subject line there is more so in a better definition that's more clear to the community, and we've settled on it more so, if you know what I mean, right? So it's not set in stone, but it's definitely slightly engraved in it. So
Awesome,
whatever
because I'm
slightly gets engraved gets released, and then uh, it's yours to discover.
awesome. I'm hyped for some performance information. It sounds like it's going to be awesome. Thanks,
Yes,
man.
if you want to circle back, that the example there, Neville, I believe the example there was uh, 1 minute. Neville, do you want to share your screen one more time, or I think you tossed me the link for it, right? Uh, one
Sure,
moment.
I can
Let me
share my
just
screen. Give
open
me
that
one
up.
second. I
Or I
unpublished
could
it, so you
open
might
up
not be able to.
the oh, okay, yeah. So let me go ahead, share your screen, and the section where the 1 minute confirmation, I want to circle back to it and explain people uh, why it's 1 minute, because so to some people, I know this will come up where they're gonna potentially think that 1 minute is too long. So I believe that with the explanation, they'll see that this is actually quicker than some of the most common ones out there. Let me know when you have that up there.
Yep, it's up there.
Okay, so I have stopped sharing my screen. Everybody can see our screen, right? So I just close this up. All right, so guys, we didn't go over the math portion and how we concluded what, but let's go over this quickly. I just want to explain this, right? An average block time between 3 to 5 seconds. So that's with your transactions in it. That's the miners authorizing it, mining it, if you will, pushing it to the masternode, and the masternode actually sealing it into the blockchain, right? Uh, and pushing the data out over to the next block solver so they can continuously synchronize with it. So uh, the final part, right? So the block, targeting between 3 to 5 seconds. So targeting the fastest seconds. We don't want it too fast, obviously, because then it's an issue, and we don't want it too slow because then it's an issue. So how do you find a sweet spot? So our sweet spot, what we've decided so far, is that it's going to be between 3 to 5 seconds, and this is what we found that works best. Why? All right, and you know what? Let's touch on the why for it after, because I feel like that's another whole like 3-4 hours. But let me go for the 1 minute mark here. The transaction should be final within 1 minute. So that's the whole confirmed aspect to it. So the lowest confirmation where transactions confirmed is at least 10 confirmations. So you might have seen that on other blockchains, when you send something, it tells you specifically that it would appear, if you will, in your wallet after 10 confirmations. How does that work? So it has to be gone over 10 times, right? So yes, the block and the transaction itself completed within 3 to 5 seconds, but it would become, if you will, what did I just use? It, it, instead of being engraved slightly, it would become set in stone, right? If you will. So how does that work? So let's just say, for instance, you have 10 or 12 confirmations that it has to go through before the wallet software says, okay, yes, you indeed have these funds, and now it's going to appear in your wallet, right? If we take 5 seconds, right? So how many times, how many blocks forward do we have to go for it to be, confirmed? So if we do it 10 times, that's 50 seconds. If we do it 12 times, it's 1 minute, right? So it's not a lot if you look at it like that, but that's where the number came from. So there's, the a very very basic, example there on the math side of why that number is 1 minute. So some people might sit there and think, oh, your transactions take a minute. No, transactions actually take 3 to 5 seconds, but for it to be final and approved, it takes a minute. There's blockchains out there that it takes them 15, 20 minutes, even though you already see the funds in your wallet when you go to something something scan. I just can't say the name for obvious reasons, but uh, something something scan will show it to you in your wallet. But if you go ahead and try and use the funds, with certain softwares, won't let you because it hasn't been confirmed enough times, if you will, right? For instance, certain exchanges, if you will, right? They tell you, you know, once you deposit funds, it takes a certain amount of uh, confirmations, if you will, right? Again, what does that mean? How many blocks forward is the best way I can explain it? How many times has it been mined over, essentially, right? And that's what it is, right? So the 1 minute mark, again, some people might say it's a lot. Uh, Essentially for a transaction. And if that in fact was the length of a transaction, I'd agree with you, that'd be a lot. But our transaction time, again, transactions going to the blocks, 3 to 5 seconds. So the actual transaction itself completes within 3 to 5 seconds, which is a hella fast. And for it to be confirmed, it's within around the minutes mark there. Now there's some softwares that do take the risk. They don't care. They can say within 2 blocks, you're confirmed, you're good to go and spend the funds. That's dangerous. So just in case, going back to the example of if there is a nefarious actor, uh, it, it would be mitigated within those blocks, right? So it's going to be mitigated no matter what. Nobody's going to be out of money other than potentially that software owner, right? If they made a mistake and decided to authorize a transaction within 2 blocks, right? And then you actually did a double spend. So that's why we'll have all these pools under contract, and we'll stress out that one of the uh, requirements is no less than 10 or 12 confirmations, right? Uh, and should somebody act outside of their parameters, if you will, we are able to forcibly disconnect them from the blockchain, right? And their miners would ultimately switch over to one of our other pools. Um, so there's a lot more that we need to talk about. We need to explain to you guys, but I really felt the need to explain this to you guys because I saw a DM pop up like before, just like a second after that. Why is transaction a minute long? So I felt the need to really circle back to it. And I'm sorry for dragging out the time, but I do hope that it further clarifies exactly what we're talking about here. Neville, before we read one of those questions there, do you mind? There's one person with their hand up. I'm gonna let's go ahead and let them ask a question. Um, Bat, right? Am I saying that right? Bat, go ahead, sir, or ma'am. BAT. If you're trying to talk, your mic is muted. Going once, going twice. All right, gone. Neville, if you could please, you said you had some of those questions there.
Sure. So
You're still sharing your screen, sir. So I'm just gonna go back to, or if you want to go back to the full dashboard or what have you, or I can do it,
uh,
whatever you'd like.
sure, go ahead. I'll read out the first question in the meantime. So from
Wonderful.
Tcrypt, what is the progress with the Steam blockchain launch? Like, how many percent is completed?
Well, what would you say? Go ahead. I mean, uh,
It's hard to say. So I
yeah,
think
there's so many components going into it, right? So
we broke up our development into 3 stages, right? And then we broke stage 3 up into 3 phases. We're very, very deep into phase 2, sorry. I think overall, I would say about 80 to 85%. But that doesn't mean that the 15% is smooth sailing, right? It's still development. It's still something that, we can run into roadblocks, run into hiccups. And then there's the whole, other side that is out of our control, such as, our regulatory journey. So, 85% is a safe number, I would say, but it doesn't mean that the last 15% is, a 2 week journey.
and
I
if
think
I were to
that
add to it, like bear in mind, there's other modules that have to plug into it, right? Other than the regulatory, blockchain is one thing. And then you have the website that's at a different percentage, right? And then you have the phone app that's at a different percentage, if you will, right? And then we have to set up the call center, which we already set up the lines, right? But now we need the staff and the hiring process for that, which is why we said Q2. But then we also said 2022, right? If you want to circle back to it, because I know it's inevitable and everybody keeps asking the same questions over and over and over again, as we keep giving you guys AMAs and showing you guys progress more and more and more and more and more. And I know you guys can see the light at the end of the tunnel, but that's just because of how bright the light is and how, in my opinion, the future is very bright, right? But that doesn't mean that the tunnel isn't long. Like Neville has just said, that 15% or the 10% or the 5% is still not a short distance. So we're still aiming for Q2, but we're saying for sure 2022 for this exact reason that blockchain percentage is one thing. Um, Pool onboarding of teams is one thing. The launch pad is another thing, right? And so on and so on and so on. So
Yeah, and I think it's sorry, Gary, like it's a good
yeah, it's
opportunity to
fine.
we changed the AMA format a little bit from our previous AMAs, so we haven't really been giving too many operational updates. But that's the thing, right? Like if you're from the operations world or the business world, like you would understand how many moving pieces there are to set up your organization when or to support a launch rather. And launching our product is one thing. Being able to support that launch is a completely different story. So there's a lot of moving pieces, like Gary mentioned, and it's always going to be a journey for us. Even after we launch, I imagine it's going to be a journey. I know someone made a joke in the chat that the whole team needs a long vacation after we launch. I don't think that's coming anytime soon. So
I
it's
think
just
the
a matter of
smart thing
staying.
to do is to go on a vacation right before the launch, actually. So that, because right when you launch, that is when your most unexpected things are probably going to
Yep.
happen, if you will. You know what I mean? That's literally like, if I could say more than hands, then if I could say more than all hands on deck, then I could say it. But like, I don't know. Uh,
Oh, it's definitely gonna be all hands on
expect the
deck.
unexpected, right? Yeah, expect the unexpected. Like, right. So
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
like, yeah,
It's a good question, and I appreciate the question, and I hope you appreciate the answer. Right? It's definitely not a short journey. It's been a fast paced one, at least for us. I know for you guys as a community, sometimes you may feel a little bit stale. No updates are coming, but for us, there's revelations every single day, right? And
that's
that's the
true.
beauty
That's
of
true.
being on the development side of things.
But that is why I decided to mention it. Like even though back we were saying, it's code, it's code. We can't show you. It's just code. You're not going to see it. You're not going to understand it. And it's not to say that nobody will understand it. It's more like, okay, well, that's a snippet of a code. How does it plug into the bigger picture? And then trying to explain that. And then it's best to visually show it. It's always best to visually show it, right? Seeing is believing. So uh, I guess that kind of seals it there, right? We can go over this for hours.
For sure. Cool. Let's go through a few more questions from the chat.
Absolutely, sure.
So this one's from Discord. So I'm wondering if there has been any results published for the alpha test net or plans for an audit at some point.
Published, as you guys know, we just literally talked about it. As soon as we have the those numbers that we're going to test a few more times, like within 24 to 48 hours, whatever we have ready to go into the public's eye, will go into the public's eye, and unless it's a major update, we won't be mentioning it, but we will be constantly updating it as we have it, unless it's worthy of like a major, like something big. And guys, we just updated it, we dropped it, go look at it, which we would likely do on AMA anyway. And what was the second part to it?
Will there be an audit at some point?
Of course.
We talked about this in the past, right? There's going to be a major audit of the platform and the platform code, and then also some breach tests, right? So we're going to get security testing, network testing, at all levels, right? We want to be attacked essentially, and then whatever vulnerabilities
White hackers. White hack.
Yep. We're identified, we're going to go in and patch up, right? So that's definitely on the table.
White hack. White hat.
Yeah. Go with a couple more. So this one says, what will be the advantage of people who mine this project?
I don't know, Neville. What do you think?
You get free tokens, I guess. Tokens for power.
No, man, it's not free. It's obviously you're paying electricity for it. While the advantage is, you don't have to go in and buy something. See, the way I look at things, right? I'm gonna give you my personal 3 cents on this, right? And that's like an inside joke there, guys, because 2 cents was rounded down recently to 0. So I don't want to see something that's not worthy. So I'll give you 3 cents of materials here. Horrible joke. I'm sorry. The way I looked at things always, and I had a choice when I was just starting out. What do I do? Do I go ahead and buy? And again, this is not financial advice whatsoever. This is the route that I took and the reason that I took it. Again, absolutely not financial advice. But here it goes. The way I looked at things is if I wanted to spend money and get into crypto, I had 2 choices. Either I buy equipment that by one way or another generates it, if you will, or manufactures it, if you will, which is the reason I went with that word in my other channel. Or I could flat out purchase it and keep it. Which one, in my opinion, and again, this is not financial advice, but which one, in my opinion, I came to know in my head that makes the most sense should something bad happen, right? Now, here's how I put it in my head. If I spend $100 and buy crypto, and that crypto degrades itself in value, for instance, not talking about us, not talking about anyone in particular, I'm just saying for instance, right? What do you do with that crypto? It's worthless at that point, right? But if you then took that money and invested it into equipment, you can either switch to another coin, and that's on graphic cards. Some ASICs are able to switch to other coins on the same algorithm. Well, won't go into too much detail of what an ASIC is and how it works, but the idea is the same, with a slight difference. So again, I could lose the value on the coin, and I could potentially the coin just becomes a paperweight. Or if I buy the hardware, I can simply switch to a different coin and continue on, right? Or I can generate many different coins and then sit on them. Nevertheless, even if all the coins on this planet go to nothing, I still end up having equipment that I could, number one, game on or resell to gamers or do many other things that are like AI, or I could use it to as part of a network that donates their equipment time for the good of science, for instance, right? There's many things you can do with it, but the general thought that I had is it's never going to hit 50% of what I bought it at, right? The equipment. But let's just say it does. I'm still always able to recoup 50% of what I invested, no matter what. And that's my security blanket, right? And that's why I decided to go with hardware versus just flat out buying coins, because the hardware you can mine the coins, and that's one of the benefits of mining, uh, instead of buying it, right? You mine using hardware.
Yeah, for sure. And I mentioned in the chat, right? Like the blockchain AMAs, it's a series of AMAs, right? Gary mentioned earlier
Hmm.
as well, this is just number one. So I think that's it. We definitely are way over our time allotment, including the delay of the start. So we do apologize in advance. We hope you enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your week, and we'll get that document out to you guys as soon as possible.
Thank you guys so much, and I really hope that you guys understand why we moved it from Saturday to today. Um, I think it was worth it, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.